Hey guys, Henry here, and today we're going to be talking about the Netflix film, The Platform, discussing what happened in the film and doing my best to break down the meaning of the film and what commentary it gives on our current society. The Platform, or El Hoyo, is a Spanish science fiction, horror, thriller, dystopian film directed by this guy. I'm not going to bother to pronounce it because I know I'm just going to butcher it and I don't really want to do that. The film premiered at the 2019 Toronto International Film Festival, where it won the People's Choice Award for Midnight Madness, and it was also there that they secured a worldwide streaming deal with Netflix, which is where you can check this film out right now. The Platform is a very self-contained film. Basically, the entire film takes place in one complex, where the inhabitants live on different levels and are fed by a platform that travels from top to bottom, allowing people on level 1 to eat as much as they want and leaving people below to eat what is left behind by the people above. And on top of this, every month the people are switched around, so they're not always on the top and they're not always on the bottom. They're switched around every month. You can already imagine what is happening in this scenario. The people, when they're at the top, they're indulging themselves, they're eating as much as they want, and when people are down below, they're left with nothing. Because this film is so self-contained, we are following the main character, Goreng, most of the time. And we really only get a few glimpses at what is actually happening at the top as they prepare the food. But it just looks like a bunch of chefs making food. It's nothing more than that. There's no decision making or anything up there. It's just talking about the quality of the food. So because of this, the film leaves a lot of questions unanswered and a lot of things up for interpretation. I've heard this film compared to Bong Joon-ho's Snowpiercer and Parasite, both being films dealing with the theme of classism. While this film does deal with similar themes, I don't think that it reaches the level of complexity that Bong Joon-ho's films have hit. It's decent, it's fun, and it's got a unique concept, but I don't think it really pushes the boundaries. So I'll be explaining the film as we go ahead and talking about the themes and what I thought the meaning of the film was. So there will be spoilers ahead, you have been warned. So we start on level 48, being introduced to our protagonist Goreng. He wakes up on level 48 and meets his roommate / cellmate, Trimagasi. Trimagasi explains the situation they're in. They're in a big tower, which the residents call the Hole, where food is delivered to them on a daily basis on a descending platform that travels from the upper levels all the way down, so they only get to eat what is left behind by the people above them. The food is initially a feast on level 0, but as it descends, what is left are mere scraps. The platform only stops for a set amount of time, and they cannot keep food on their floor, as there is some sort of system that will heat or cool the room until they die, or let go of what they were trying to keep. And every month, they will be reallocated to a different level. My initial biggest question was, how the hell is that platform floating? And why does no one even question it? This was quickly overcome. I mean, they have much bigger issues to worry about than the physics of that hole. As we continue and Goreng and Trimagasi keep talking, Goreng reveals that he actually volunteered to come and spend 6 months in the hole in exchange for a diploma. We're not told why he needs to come to the hole for a diploma and why he can't just do that on his own, but I guess he's lazy, I don't know. And Trimagasi responds by telling him he's serving a year-long sentence for manslaughter. Each person is also allowed to bring in one possession with them into the hole, and Goreng decided to bring a copy of Don Quixote so that he could read it over the 6 months and educate himself instead of actually getting an education to get the diploma outside of the hole. I mean, I guess that's pretty counterintuitive, but whatever. And Trimagasi brought the Samurai Plus, a self-sharpening knife, which he reveals in a brilliant bit of dialogue and writing. One day, a woman named Miharu rides down on the platform. She's covered in blood and she looks disheveled. And Trimagasi explains that she travels down the hole every month in search of her child. As Miharu descends down to the next level, the people down there, they grab her, and Trimagasi suggests that they probably will keep her for a few days, insinuating maybe they were going to rape her or something of that nature. We see that Goreng is compassionate and he considers jumping down to save her, but Miharu ends up being able to handle things herself and she kills her attackers and sits back on the platform and continues down. Over the course of the month, Goreng and Trimagasi, they get along really well. Goreng reads Don Quixote to Trimagasi and they develop a cute little bromance. Goreng wakes up and he's tied to a bed, he's gagged, and he can't move. And Trimagasi tells him that at level 171, they will not be getting any food from the platform, and he says the only way for them to get through this is that if he cuts strips of Goreng's flesh to feed the both of them. And his rationale is that even though Goreng seems like a nice guy, after going hungry for a few weeks, Goreng is likely to turn Trimagasi, and Trimagasi, being an older gentleman, decides that he must act as soon as possible. Trimagasi intends to purge Goreng for a few days before starting to eat him, and he feels he's doing what must be done and hopes that Goreng will understand and forgive him. The day comes for Trimagasi to start eating Goreng, and he starts to cut into Goreng's leg. But by some act of God, a miracle, Miharu comes down just as he's cutting into Goreng, and she snatches the Samurai Plus and slashes Trimagasi's throat, setting Goreng free and also feeding him bits of Trimagasi's flesh for sustenance before continuing down. Miharu definitely understood Goreng's character and saw his concern for her, and although she didn't need it, I guess she wanted to repay him the favor. And to survive the month on level 171, Goreng continues to eat Trimagasi to sustain himself. Goreng wakes up and has a new floormate, Imaguri, and she brought her cute little sausage dog into the hole with her. I'm not sure how great of an idea this was, considering people are literally eating other people in here. Goreng recognizes her as the official that had conducted his interview for the admission into the hole, and she admits that she didn't really realize and she didn't really comprehend how bad it actually was in the hole, and she didn't realize that she was sending people basically to their doom. And when she was diagnosed with terminal cancer, she took it upon herself to try and come to the hole and make a change. How virtuous. She believes that the hole is an experiment in spontaneous solidarity, and she honestly believes that one day everyone will just work together magically and they'll ration the food and everyone will live happily ever after. But this proves extremely difficult, as you can imagine. She rations her food and prepares rations for those below and tries to convince them to do the same thing to leave enough for the people even further down below, but they all just completely ignore her. But as soon as Goreng threatens to take a dump in their food, their ears perk up and they start to listen. This sort of shows us how power works in the hole. The people above have the leverage over the people below, being able to eat as much as they want and leaving less for the people below, or even, I guess, taking a dump and ruining all the food for the people below. Miharu makes yet another appearance as she rides down on the platform, but she's badly injured, and Goreng and Imaguri help her off the platform and tend to her injuries. Again, I find it strange that they see Miharu again, because that means that she is always ending up on levels above Goreng. Seems like a coincidence, doesn't it? Imaguri tells Goreng that what he had heard about Miharu is untrue, as nobody under 16 years old is allowed in the hole, and that Miharu is in fact an actress who volunteered to enter the hole alone. As Miharu is nursed back to health, she ends up eating the sausage dog and continues her descent. Imaguri hangs herself after the death of her sausage dog and the realization that the hole is in fact deeper than the 200 levels that she had previously understood it to be. Goreng eats her flesh to survive this month, all while being egged on by hallucinations of Imaguri and Trimagasi, now having eaten the flesh of his past two cellmates. Goreng's new roommate is a man named Baharat, who is absolutely ecstatic that they are on such a high level, and he intends to escape by climbing up to the top level with the rope that he's brought in as his one item. The people above offer to help him. He throws them his rope and they hold on as he climbs up, and as he almost reaches their level, they literally take a dump on his face, mocking him. Again, this is showing the power dynamic by the people above. They literally can control everything down below. They can take a dump on them, they can offer them stuff, and then take it away just as easily. Goreng, seeing this, decides he's got to do something and convinces Baharat to ride down on the platform and ration food to the people below, estimating about 250 levels to the bottom. Both of them go, sacrificing their premium level 6 position, and just noting that this is Goreng's 5th month, so he only had one more month after this before he would get out of the hole. They decide not to hand out any food to anyone in the first 50 levels, knowing that they will have plenty of food to eat tomorrow, and they start rationing at level 50. And anyone unwilling to cooperate with them and take the ration that they're given, they just beat them up. They go past this wise man who knows Baharat, and he tells them they should bring a message to the people on level 0 and to preserve the panna cotta as a symbol of the people in the hole's perseverance and resilience, which is completely ironic as it is only those two people that are willing to persevere and make the ultimate sacrifice. As they get deeper, they see Miharu fighting two other residents. They try to help her, but she dies, and they themselves sustain very heavy injuries, with Baharat being slashed open with a samurai sword and Goreng's suffering from a serious beatdown. Nevertheless, they keep descending, and they end up descending beyond level 250, now feeling even more helpless as they don't know how much further they have to go. They reach level 333, and this seems to be the very last level, and Goreng and Baharat get off, and they find a little girl hiding beneath the bed, likely being Miharu's child, and they give her the untouched panna cotta to eat. Goreng passes out and dreams of Baharat telling him that the girl is the message. The next day, Goreng finds Baharat dead from the injuries he sustained from the previous battle, and he takes a platform with the child, and it actually descends one more level to the very bottom of the hole, just a big black pit, where he sees Trimagasi. Trimagasi tells him that the message requires no bearer, so Goreng hops off the platform and walks away with Trimagasi, turning to see the little girl get shot up right to the top. And that's where this movie ends. The ending is left purposely ambiguous. It's very likely that Goreng just died and he never actually even got to the final level, and the ending is just what Goreng imagined would have happened. And even if the little girl did actually make it all the way up, it doesn't show us what happens, and we don't know if the people in control even cared about this message or if any change was actually made. At the end of the day, Goreng set out on a mission to change the system, to get the people in charge, to save the people in the hole. But through his and Baharat's sacrifice, fighting all the way down to the bottom level and preserving that panna cotta, did they really change anyone's minds within the hole? Is anyone going to continue to ration food going forward? Personally, I don't think so, and I think it'll only happen once in a while when someone noble or someone with the same level of compassion as Goreng is willing to make that sacrifice. Obviously, the platform and the hole is a socio-economic allegory, almost a streamlined version of capitalism. The most privileged people are the people on the top. They have all the choice of what they want to eat and how much they want to eat, and they hold power over the people below them, as demonstrated by Goreng threatening to take a dump all over the food. But what is really interesting is that the prisoners or the captives, they're shifted around every month. So they've experienced the highs, they've experienced the lows. They know what it's like to be in a decent position at a decent level, and they also know what it's like to be at a level where they expect no food to be there. And this is not what happens in reality. People don't really shift classes that easily, so this is a different look on what happens in real life. But even though they do switch, these people aren't even able to empathize with each other. Even though they know what it's like to be below, they're still not willing to ration the food. Their logic being that the people below would not do the same if they were above, and the people above already treat them like shit. So when those people that are currently above them are below them, they're going to return the same treatment. And it's just a never-ending cycle of selfishness. But this film isn't just a criticism on capitalism, but it also explores socialism when Goreng and Baharat travel down the platform trying to convince others to willingly share their food with the people below. They end up beating up and killing basically half the people they set out to help in the first place. I think this film is more a critique on human selfishness and greed. It shows these two systems, this capitalistic system and this socialistic system, and it shows how there is no perfect system in which people will act in spontaneous solidarity. At the core of most people, they would choose to act in their own self-interest. You can't just simply demand that everyone collaborate, because all it takes is for one person to ruin it. And if it just takes one person to just screw everything up, everyone already thinks, why bother in the first place? I think this film had a pretty interesting message, and I think it knew what it was. It didn't try to make it big and fancy. It had a poignant message and it got it across. I don't think it's as complicated as some other films. It's quite straightforward. I really enjoyed it for what it was, and I think it's definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen it before. Thank you guys again for watching this video. If you liked it, please be sure to hit that like button. And if you want to see more content from me, please be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. If you've seen the platform, let me know what you thought in the comment section. Thank you guys again, and I'll catch you guys next time.